interested in knowing how to package and present a business from sourcing point. Nice. I've started several businesses, acquired others in the past, then exited them. Good for you, Manny. You're in the 1%, 90 guys, give you some stats. 98% of businesses never go above 5 years. Most of them fail. So if you have an existing business and you're alive for more than 5 years, congrats. And my goal for everyone here is to be able to grow an existing business for as many years as possible, or buy an existing business that's already exists for 5, 10 plus years and skip the startup, challenges. All right, guys. So today we're going through just generic stuff about acquisitions. I'm just going to share some notes and thoughts and latest thoughts, and then we'll just open it up for Q&A, and I'll just, try to support you as much as possible. I want to share with you some lessons about roll-ups, what I think are some of the things you want to pay attention to when you want to roll up a sector, a vertical, and making sure that you're not making mistakes that we went through and are going through still. To give you an idea, the largest roll-up we were involved in was a $200 million roll-up that basically happened from 0 to 200 million in revenues in less than a year. Like, when you try to grow so fast, you're gonna have a lot of break points in the process and points where your business can really break. So look at it this way: to go from 0 to 1 million, it is all about what you're doing, right? So you got to make sure that what you're doing is actually working, that there's actual demand for your product, your services, right? To go from 1 to 10, it's all about who you do it with. So the people that you're working with. And to go to 10 to 100 million, it's all about how you do it. So your processes, your systems, your IT, your compliance, HR, legal, stuff like that. If you want to ask yourself, why do you stuck? It usually comes down to those 3 answers. And let me know in the chat if you agree with that or not, because that's what I've seen when we've been working with hundreds of deals at this point. This is what I usually see. When someone don't have a business at all, or is having a challenge to go from 0 to 1 million, it's usually because he just isn't able to find the right solutions in regards to what he's doing, right? So what he's selling, what is the product? Is there even enough demand for that? Is the market there? Can you sell at a price that is good enough to create a nice amount of margin and profits? When you're getting to 1 million, then obviously, yes, you want to continue with what you're doing. You want to do it better, and you want to have more options and products and services. But then it comes down to who you do it with. Who are the people you have? Do you have a team? Do you have an executive team? Do you have people you can trust to basically lead different departments? Because I don't care who you are, you can't do everything in a business, period. No one is too talented. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are not Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos because they did it on their own. Jeff Bezos, how many employees Amazon got? How many employees Elon Musk got with Tesla, right? And with other companies. Everyone here agree that you can't really build something massive on your own. Every big business is going to be dependent on people at the end of the day. And I don't care, some people tell me, hey, what about technology? Technology is all about technology. You don't need people. But look at the biggest technology companies in the world. Guess what they have? A lot of people. To be the biggest business in the world, you got to have a lot of people, period. And also, to add on that, I hear a lot of people are afraid to invest in themselves and invest in their business. And you need to understand, guys, if you're afraid to invest in yourself and in your business, there's no way you're going to grow. Do you all understand that let's say your goal is to be a 25 million a year business? Do you all agree with me that your expenses are probably going to be around 20 million? Right? So let's say that's your revenues. Obviously, it depends on the sector and whatnot, at least. Right? Depends on the sector, depends on how fast you're going, how much you're reinvesting back. But do you all understand that in order to be a 25 million business, you got to invest 20 million? And sometimes people are just afraid to invest, and every profit they're making, they just want to take money out of the business to buy themselves a nice car, a nice watch. Do we all agree that that's stupid? If you want to grow, you don't have to grow. You can stay where you're at. But I believe at this point that if you're not growing, you're dying, you're sliding down. There is no staying at the plateau, especially when there's inflation and whatnot. The value of dollar is going down, the cost of your team members is going up. So if you're not growing, you're dying. So please understand that for you to grow, you got to be willing to invest in yourself, be resourceful, be committed to the business. Otherwise, just sell the business or just don't start in the first place if you're not willing to invest in yourself. Because to be big, you got to invest big. And obviously, it doesn't necessarily need to happen in a day. If you grow by acquisitions, it can happen in a day. But you got to have that mindset. If you want to be big, you got to have the mindset of understanding, okay, if I want to be big, I need to be willing to invest big and to have larger expenses and to take risk, in quotes. Otherwise, you just stay where you're at. Anyway, back a bit to the 10 to 100. It's all about the how you do things, right? So when you have the right people, then you got to have good processes and systems and IT and compliance and whatnot. Otherwise, you're just going to be in a messed up situation. Because if you have one business right now and it's messy and you're going to buy 10 more businesses, you're just going to expand and 10x the mess, basically. So the last thing you want to do is to do that. Like if you have one business, you first of all want to make sure that the fundamentals are right. And when you grow it in a way that makes sense. So you have a business that is, call it a platform company that is so robust and so good that whatever asset or business you're buying, you can immediately change things in that new business to affect that new business with your existing and performing processes and assets. So those are my first thoughts about some of the biggest things to focus on. Now, let me share with you some more notes on what I think is really important for you to understand. How should I call it? It's basically removal of things. By the way, in the end, if you guys want access to the slide thing that I'm creating here, I don't know if you feel like it's valuable, but let me know. I mean, message support@acquisition.com and we'll message it to you if you guys want, like the PDF, or just message me on Facebook and my team will message you there. So removal of things, what that means? It means that the way that I see that when we are overwhelmed and confused, we fail. Whatever going on with you, if you want to buy a business, grow a business, you got to clarify and create clarity and simplification as much as possible. It's key, right? So it's almost like you need to ask yourself, in the end of the day, you want to remove as many things as possible and focus on like one or two things for each quarter. If you do more than that, it's very difficult, especially if you have a large team. So again, I know some of you here are business owners, some of you are not. So for example, let me give you an example. If you are not a business owner yet and you want to buy your first business, then guess what? If you have a to-do list of like, 10 things, you need to ask yourself in the next 30, 60, 90 days, what are the 1-2 things that are the most important things that are going to move the needle the most? And you need to delete everything else and just focus on those top 2 things. And when it comes to buying businesses, guess what? Probably some of those 2 things should be. It's probably talk to business owners and talk to financial partners. If you're not doing this, don't expect to buy a business in the next 30 to 60 or 90 days or a year. I could give you more things here, but if I had to tell you what are the top 2, it's those 2. If you're not doing those things, don't expect to get the results. If you are a business owner, then again, it comes down to understanding what are your goals, right? So I would say that probably your goals should be to start with understanding what are you doing? Are you clear on that? Who do you do it with? Do you have the right team? And do you have good processes on how you do it? With what we're building with acquisition.com, we are creating a concierge service that will basically allow us to re-engineer your businesses, to basically make sure that you find out where are the gaps in your business, what are the, basically do kind of like a SWOT analysis, your strength, your weaknesses, your opportunity, your threats, what the competitors are doing, what you're doing, how can you become best in the market. I hear a lot of people are like to give you an idea, I had someone who came to me with a business in the landscape, he had a landscaping business. And also another example, I had a guy in Australia, he came to me with a security business. And he was doing, I think, almost around 10 million a year in revenues, and he wanted to go about and buy a completely different business. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that. You can do that if you want to do it for fun and just to have a nice portfolio and just to do it for, lifestyle and just, being involved in many things at once. No problem. But if your goal is to build the biggest business possible, it's the worst thing you can do, because you're going to have a completely different learning curve in a different sector. And usually it happens because people just don't believe in themselves and just don't have the skill set to go from 1 to 10 or from 10 to 100. Because I told him, like, do you know other security companies doing more than you? He's like, yeah, of course, there are security companies doing hundreds of millions a year or even billions a year. So I'm like, cool. So do we both agree that you can make more money in the security space? It's just you specifically don't have the skills at the moment to get there? That's how I think that you should look at things when you want to go into different sectors if you are an existing business owner. Also understanding that the grass is always greener, right? We always think that, hey, the different sector is going to be easier. Everyone is nice there. It's easy to get capital. Every business owner is super motivated. It's going to give you the business for free. But it's not the case. Every business is going to have its own learning curve. And especially for the security guy, he's been involved in that sector for the last 10 years. So what do you think is going to be easier? To stay in the sector and just double, triple, and exponentially grow it, or to go into something completely new? So removal of things. Next thing you should focus on. And again, the conversation today, like I created it mostly to think about business owners in mind, but I think it's relevant for everyone. So KPIs. Everyone here know what are KPIs? Basically key performance indicators. So what that means? It means that when you have a business, like, you got to have something to track, right? You got to have things to track on a regular basis. And also, if you don't have a business and you want to buy a business, you got to have KPIs to track. So remember those things. We started first with removal of things and having priorities. So I believe that we all have time for everything we want to do. And when someone is telling me I don't have time, in my mind, it's telling me it's not a priority for me, right? When someone telling me, hey, I don't have time to work out, for me, it just means that it's not a priority for him. And he rather just, I don't know, get out of shape and be overweight. For me, if someone's telling me I don't have time to work on it, on looking for deals, it just means to me that it's not a priority. And it's all good. I'm not here to tell you what are your priorities, but I'm here to tell you that if your goal is to buy a business or to grow your business by acquisitions, then it's got to be a priority. And if it's not a priority, then don't expect to get different results. Now, after you know that it's a priority, the best way to keep yourself accountable is to have some kind of KPIs, right? So it can be, again, KPIs can be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, right? Yearly. And you want to constantly look at those things, right? So for example, if you're a business owner, look at what are your processes? How do you keep people accountable to those KPIs to follow? And everyone should have, including you, probably at least 3 to 5 KPIs to, keep yourself accountable. I think that more than that, like more than 5, 6, 7, it usually becomes almost too much, but I think 3 and 5 is kind of a good range. Then of course, each department, eventually you want to have their own KPIs. So what kind of departments you have in business? You have sales, you have marketing, you have operations, right? What do you have? Depends on the business, of course, right? But you have whatever, some kind of a support or customer thing. You have HR, you have legal, you have finance, right? Maybe IT. Do you have a process to keep everyone accountable? Can you have KPIs for each of them, of the departments? That's the only way to grow. Like, if you want to grow a business, you just got to push on each department and make sure that every week we track those KPIs and we push on improvements on those KPIs. And ideally, everyone in the team is also compensated based on reaching different KPIs, right? To make sure that everyone is incentivized based on results that they're producing to the business. Otherwise, it's like, why would they wake up? I mean, obviously, in the end of the day, business is not just about money, right? Obviously, money is a big part of it, but the only reason for business to stay alive, I mean, business needs to make money and profit. Otherwise, there's no reason for the existence of that business. But for that existence of the business to constantly grow and scale, it's on you as the owner to constantly push, constantly sprint. And it's never ending project. Like some business owners think that one day will come and you can just rest on your laurels. What's the word? Right, something like that. But it never happens. As long as you're a business owner, it never happens. You either push and go up or you slide down. Like if you're looking to have a nirvana in business, sorry, it's not going to happen. It will happen if you exit the business and you're just never going to be part of it. Otherwise, as long as you're part of the business, it's always like constant chase. You're in the chase constantly. And if you sleep in for a day or two, you're gonna get screwed. Like you're gonna have different technology, different government rules, money printing rules, different pandemics, competitors. A lot of things will come to you that you won't expect. And it's on you as the owner to constantly be on top of things, right? So what are your KPIs? And again, obviously, if you're doing acquisitions, then you're going to have some biz dev, call it biz dev department. And then here you'll have things like deal flow. You have things like, your finance could help you with your basically finance due diligence, right? Your legal could help you with the legal stuff. So you could help a full team to help you with that. You could have a team to help you with the cap raise. All depends on how big you are, basically, right? Like the biggest company in the world, they have a huge biz dev. All they're doing is basically M&A. And that's what we want to build with acquisitions.com also over time, is to be your M&A, basically, call it fractional remote team to basically help you with operating the business, make sure you have good fundamentals in place, and then help you to also grow by acquisitions. So to be almost like your silent partner without being your boss. So instead of us being in control of everything you're doing, we'll actually work for you. That's the way we want to grow with you guys. Earn our equity with performance and the value that we provide right away. So holding people accountable, of course, to those KPIs, right? Back to those things again. I see it with every business, including what we're doing with acquisitions.com right now internally. That's the only things that's holding every business back. What you do, it's who you do it with, and it's how you do it. And you need to understand that as the owner, like you need to keep everyone accountable. And when you see problems, you need to address things right away. So it's almost like you need to have ideally a process to make sure you address those things, to have some kind of ongoing meetings and calls, to go through things, to find out bottlenecks and create transparency and opportunities for what can be done.